Hello, this is Anna Laparachi, and welcome to my channel, Spi-Sci, the channel where science meets spirituality. In this channel, I would like to connect with what I said in my previous video about the ontological approach. Here I'm going to create a metaphor to explain what I want to say further. In the past, the experts of the past used to believe that the Earth was at the center of the universe, and that was the Ptolemaic approach. And then, with scientific evidence, we came to the conclusion that actually it's the sun at the center of the universe. So that was the Copernican approach. In in um, in a similar way, analogically speaking, like I'm creating this metaphor where what I want to say is that um, with ontology, it's the being at the center, versus the more epistemological, logical, only scientific evidence-based evidence is more the planets around the the sun, the center. It's more, as we could say, a Ptolemaic approach. Um, what do I want to say with this? That it's important where we start. Are we starting from the outside or from the inside? Are we starting from the evidence or from the being? The approach where I want to start at is the ontological approach or ontocracy. The word ontocracy, I first heard it from Matthias de Stefano. He explains it in political terms, where he explains why autocracy functions best, even better than democracy, monarchy, republican ideals. But here in this channel, I won't dive into political terms because that's not the purpose of my channel. My channel wants to integrate the two aspects because these two aspects of science-based and spirituality, consciousness, and ontology, they are complementary to one another. They don't exclude one or the other. But we should start from what I believe is the right place where we should start. And that place is this us. Know thyself, knowing yourself, the being. So that's what is the meaning of ontocracy in the end. Like it comes from the Greek word ontos, being, and kratos, power. So power to the being. We're giving importance first to the being, studying the self, and then we go to the outside world. So in this sense, I created this picture that not contrasted, but like explains the differences between the two methods, the more ontocratic approach and the more scientific method approach. So let me there you go. So I'm going to widen this. There you go. The scientific method as ontocracy. So we're aligning belief with reality because another definition, like a meaning of ontocracy is that according to ontocracy, reality is something that exists, whether like of how it exists, it exists whether we believe it or not. It exists as it is, if that makes sense. So whatever belief ideals we have about it, reality, it doesn't change. Our beliefs about reality, our understanding about reality is continuously evolves. So in this sense, that's why it's written here, being governs. And in the scientific method, observation, hypothesis, experiment, data, revision, it's also called the alignment process because we're aligning these two aspects. In ontocracy, as I said before, it's reality that determines the truth. While in the scientific method, we need the data. that can confirm the theory. And autocracy is the being that governs the structure. In the scientific method, it's the testing that governs validity. So we need to test in order to know if those ideas are valid. In ontocracy, there's authority from existence. Well, in the scientific method, we need evidence to have that authority. So, um, in other words, in there's we can compare knowledge as a spiral where there's a continuous revision and understanding. And so in other words, as it says also here, reality rules, evidence guides, then does not dictate, and beliefs adapts. And that in that sense, we can really, if we have to design geometrically how does this look like visually? It looks like a spiral. And the spiral goes up and it expands more and more. And when we have the image of a spiral in our mind, it goes, every time it turns, it goes to the same or similar point as before, but from a different point of view. In the same way, our belief system happens. Even when you achieve the Buddha state, it's a continuous process. It's not like just because you know everything and you have that access to that knowledge, then evolution stops. No, it's a continuous expansion. So that's one sense of like the ontocracy method. Then here I created this other visual of the scientific method applied to spirituality. So the first method is the questioning, the pure questioning, like question even the most obvious things. Do the research, read those books, or do hear those spiritual teachers. Hypothesis, you start to see how it applies to you and see how others achieved what maybe you want to achieve in the spiritual sense, and start experimenting. And this is I believe, the most important part in the spiritual scientific method, because experimenting overrides than any form of logical interpretation with the mind where you start to make assumptions. When you experiment, apply that knowledge, and you start to see that, hey, what I researched, what my hypothesis is coming true, and it's real, it works. That's the thing, it really works. Then you start to gain the evidence, and you start to understand that the experimentation that you're doing is the evidence. So you're drawing conclusions from experiment, from your own experience. So that is we could say the scientific method applied to applied to spirituality, in other words. And this is the point I want to start in my videos. I want to start from this point where I integrate both aspects. And that's why I might even ask question if other sciences, or have or in other words, if other teachings of other courses or other belief systems can be considered as science, even if ufology is science. I might dive into that also. So, so let me know what you think about these ideas. Thank you, and see you next time.